follow us on Twitter at Ghettoplex_MP4, on Instagram at Ghettoplex.mp4, and subscribe to us on YouTube at Ghettoplex. Gladiator 2 is basically Gladiator 1, but bad. I'm going to start with somewhat spoilers, but they're more spoilers from the first film, because in the second film they use a good amount of footage from the first film to emphasize the story and why you should care, but they do it terribly. So we begin the film with flashback footage in the beginning credits, the opening credits. It's visually decent to look at. It's like live action painting, but it's more nostalgia bait. And it feels like these are the way they created the credits in the beginning of the film. These should have been the ending credits of the first film. So, because it's like, it feels like there was nowhere new to go with this story. And I already had that feeling just when they announced that they were even making the film. The one thing that stood out to me right away is that the emotional impact of the first Gladiator movie is much stronger because we're given more information about what is important to specific characters and their motives. In this second film, there's a lot of characters, a lot of motives, and there's not enough time to build up an arc for all these characters and their goals. And also left me like wondering, did Maximus have no impact? Did his sacrifice mean nothing in the first film? Because Rome is basically in the same state of corruption. It seems like Rome's even worse off in this film, but they don't really justify how it got to such a much more worse position, especially after the sacrifice that Maximus made in the first film. Because Maximus was this figure of hope in Rome. He was like the make Rome great again figure. He really did inspire the people of Rome in the first film. So it seems like, how did he perform such an act and it meant absolutely nothing? And it seems like they try to distract the audience in this film with all the gladiator battles to make up for the lack of story and the lack of buildup, the lack of structure. There's a lot of, I guess they're supposed to be like inspirational speeches, but they just feel empty. And they try to use the score. Obviously, they want to use the score from the first film because it's the second film, but it doesn't have the same impact, the same emotional impact when they're trying to emphasize that this is some deep moment in the film. And the cinematography in this film is pretty decent, but the bad CGI does not help it. They also have, I guess they're trying to pay homage to Spartacus, but it seems more like a cheap ripoff. But yeah, so in this film, there are two emperors instead of one. So we have, well, I guess two emperors, because in the first film, it's a Caesar. So in this film, it's like two emperors. And there's no explanation to how these twins became the emperors. Like, who were they connected to? Like, what was their lineage to put them in the place of emperor? And their conflict, they have this conflict with each other, but it's not really clear where their conflict stems from. Denzel is basically Proximo, but an antagonistic version of Proximo. He has an understandable motive, like his character's motive is understandable, but the buildup for his actions and all that is just not interesting. The gladiator battles, man, the CGI is just not going to, it's not bad, but it's definitely not going to age well. Like, we got gladiators versus monkeys and rhinos, and in the first film they had actual lions. They weren't like CGI lions. And I gotta understand, you don't want to, for the way that the battle plays out with the monkeys, you can't do that with the real monkeys because they would kill you. So it's like, why do you need the animals? Why do you need these CGI animals, CGI sharks? It's just, it doesn't look good. You could have just had them fighting just more people. I don't know what was the need for the CGI animals, to be honest. And then the copycat head chop of Maximus, which is performed by Lucius. And another thing that's weird is because, okay, so Lucius, he was a kid in the first film, and then in this film, he's a grown-up. You know, he's like, basically, he plays the part of Maximus. And in this film, we learn what people speculated from the first film was Maximus his father, which in this film, they're like, Maximus was your real father. And they keep on reminding the audience, like, remember Maximus, that character you really liked? Well, he's the father of Lucius, the protagonist in this film, so you should really feel the same for Lucius. But, yeah, so they have this scene that's supposed to pick up right at the end of the first film, but they play it like way later in the second film. It's like almost towards the end, of how Lucius ended up being separated from Rome. And it's just so ludicrous. It's like, after Maximus dies in the first film, the mom like immediately takes him away from the Colosseum, and she's like son, you have to go because everyone's going to try to kill you now. But that's another thing that doesn't make sense because, like I said, Maximus dies and the people of Rome were all behind. Everyone supported Maximus. Everyone was on Maximus's side at the end of the first film. So how is he in danger when the sacrifice that Maximus just made, it was to save Rome, to save the Republic of Rome? So it just doesn't make any kind of narrative sense. Other parallel things from the first film is Lucia, her secret meetings with senators, and the general character that's played by Pedro Pascal. And Pedro Pascal kind of has like the same, I would say, motive as Maximus. He wants Rome to be great again. I'm just gonna say, make Rome great again. They basically have like the MAGA plan for Rome. But Pascal is like, I don't know why. So he has a similar request as Maximus when he talks to the emperors. He's like, I just want to go home to my wife. Like the way Maximus was to the Caesar in the first film. Like, I just want to go home to my wife. Only in this film, Pascal, his character, I forget his name. I'm just going to call him Pascal. Pedro Pascal. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyways, he's in a relationship with Lucia, which I don't even know how did that relationship even happen? He goes through a similar obstacle as Maximus, where he's basically trying to throw a coup or insurrection, whatever you want to call it, but it feels less impactful. There's the build up for it is just not, it doesn't have the same structure as the first film. We really see how Maximus gains the trust of the other gladiators. And obviously Pedro Pascal, he's not a gladiator, he's a general, but his motive is the same as Maximus, only instead of being the gladiator, he's still the general. And then we keep on hearing about how the people are tired of tyranny. We don't actually see the tyranny that the people are suffering from. We only see two perspectives in this film. We see the perspective of the rich people, like the emperor and the people who are servants to the emperors. And then we see the perspective of the gladiators. But we see no perspective of the average Roman citizen and how they're living under this tyranny that we keep on hearing about. So they don't really establish the tyrannical rule of the emperors because we don't really see the people living in tyranny. The people like revolt and stuff, but we don't understand why they're revolting. We don't see what is the tyrannical actions of the emperors, because the emperors are just distracting the people with the Colosseum. They're just giving bread and circuses to distract them from the emperor's lack of leadership. Anyways, that's Gladiator 2. It literally is a terrible version of Gladiator 1. And I would advise skipping this one entirely. I wouldn't even watch it at home, to be honest. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below if you did suffer through this film. Or if you just plan on not watching it and you just wanted to come here and hear from someone else. I sat through that movie so you didn't have to, okay? Anyways, follow us on Twitter at Ghettoplex_MP4, on Instagram at Ghettoplex.mp4, and subscribe to us on YouTube at Ghettoplex. See you guys in the next one.